morning, YouTube. I'm going to take y'all and show you a piece off of a video that I was watching, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to explain it to you. Okay, in just a second. Okay, so what I just showed y'all was a black marble, and it's possible that it's onyx piece that is a square cube sitting in the middle of a messianic temple. And I believe that this is the messianic main temple. I was watching a movie, it's a documentary called Angels and Demons, and it breaks down how the Masons are involved with the construction of the United States of America. And there are so many secrets to do with that. But in this video, they showed the inside of this Messianic temple, this Mason's temple. Now, I bring this up because if you'll notice on that black marble cube or whatever it was that's in the middle of that thing, it had the Hebrew language around it. Why? Why does a Messianic temple have a Hebrew language around a big black cube that's in the center of their congregation piece, you know, their get-together place? The Hebrews, the ones that do not believe in the Messiah, the ones that are calling upon their false Messiah, they are the ones that are involved in the Rothschild bankings and the Rockefellers. They're the ones that are involved in these secret societies, getting them together. The involvement of the mind control, the government's New World Order, the false Jews, the ones that call themselves Jews and they are liars, that's in the book of Revelation. That is the ones that are running Israel right now, and it's called the Sanhedrin. Now, what they call themselves, the real secret name of the mysticistic Jews, we have no idea, but I do know they're involved. The more that I get into this study, the more that Jesus reveals to me the truth that's going on around the world is absolutely just mind-blowing. How much of involvement that these fake Jews have, an involvement in this. But I'm not talking about them. I'm going to talk about the Masons, because the Masons, they build these buildings, and then I don't know where these buildings get broke down. But I'm going to break down. We are going to break down the Twin Towers and why the Twin Towers got hit, and the reason for the Twin Towers getting hit. The Twin Towers did not, it was a total sacrifice. That's what it was. When they built those buildings, they did a sacrifice of those buildings, and everyone that was in those buildings, when those buildings caught on fire, blew up. That was their sacrifice. There was an alignment happening in the stars during this time. Now, in 1971, the Twin Towers, they were being put together, okay? And it wasn't until 2 years later when they decided to have an opening day for the Twin Towers. Now, why did they wait 2 years? Because in the stars, there was a major lineup that was happening, and it didn't happen when the Twin Towers were created. It didn't happen until 2 years later, and it was when Pluto and Saturn, Saturn was in Gemini, and Pluto was in Sagittarius, or maybe it's the opposite. Either way, these symbols represent a very specific destruction, major. And so when the Twin Towers were made and they opened them, this alignment in the stars happened with the planets. Well, when the Twin Towers were killed, when they came down. They say the Islams ran into them. This alignment in the stars was happening again. So from 1971 to 2001, until 2001, this alignment didn't happen. And when the alignment happened, that's when they broke these twin towers down, and they sacrificed all those children in it. I mean, all those people. Well, children, they are. They're children of Yahweh. 90% of them, I'm sure. Excuse me. I'm bringing this up because the guy that made the Twin Towers, the one that had the designs made for the Twin Towers, he made the Twin Towers, the layout of them, to be just like the layout of the Muslims' Kaaba in Mecca. The layout. Kaaba has 7 foundation pillars. I believe that that's what they're called. And the Twin Towers had 2 Twin Towers, but the 2 Twin Towers were made up of 7 buildings. And one of those buildings was called Solomon's Building. Why does this matter? Because you know that stone that I showed you in this video, the one that has the Hebrew language around it, and it's sitting in this temple that the Masons get together, all these different countries and religions, and they put everything aside and they get together in this temple, and they do their little worship and whatnot, and their secret society stuff that they do. That's the Masons' involvement in the building of these buildings is all surrounded by the building of Solomon's temple. Now, it's supposed to be the temple of God, but everybody calls it Solomon's temple. Solomon was a wise man, but man has ended up turning something that God made for himself and turned it into the glory of another man, and that would be Solomon. Everything that the Masons do their stuff around has to do with King Solomon and the temple that he made. God gave him design to make. So all these buildings and these structures and these monuments that they make all over the world, they build them, and if these monuments come down in any sort of way, we need to be paying attention to what's happening in the stars, and we need to ask ourselves, who are they sacrificing to this time, and why? Every sacrifice they do, every building that is torn down after they've made it, it's all happening for prophecy to be fulfilled. For their new world order has to happen. God Almighty says it. He tells us in His Word. People, look in the book of Revelation. Do your research and your study. He tells us that the new world order will happen. All nations will fall to this deception. The Masons act as though they are charitable and in a helping group society. But I'm telling you right now, the things that they're into, the worship that they do, is uncanny. Unbelievable. Mind-blowing. Some of them might not even know that they're into some strange, peculiar things, and I've heard a lot of them say, oh, it's just beautiful ceremonies that you go into, watching them, if you were ever able to get into a Mason ceremony. But I do know a few people that have friends in the Masons, and they were only, they were allowed to be there just to be there for some of the ceremonies. And they said that it was just absolutely beautiful, some of the stuff that they do. The stuff that they do goes back to Egypt and Babylon. And the stuff they do all over the world, these different religions are doing these little tidbit, strange society type things. Every one of these fake, false religions are working together for the New World Order. But if you will notice, I got to bring it up again, that black cube that sits in the middle of that Masonic temple has Hebrew language around it. Here we are again. with the Hebrew language. That's a very powerful language, and they're using it. Language is powerful, and it's being used. God Almighty says, I believe it's in Ezekiel chapter 8, maybe, where he talks about, I will hide my face and watch you who have robbed my secret places. I believe that he's talking to the ones who have robbed the language. His beautiful Hebrew language that he created everything with by speaking into existence. I'm going to get to y'all. I will get more information to you about the Masons and the Sacred Feminist. Because all in all, that is what it breaks down to. What the Masons are worshiping, what the Jews are worshiping, what the Muslims are worshiping, every one of them, what the Indians, the Hindus are worshiping. It's a female, a virgin who had a child. That's who they're worshiping. And so, here we are. And I hope that this has been beneficial to some of y'all. And I will get back to you for sure. I don't really know what else to say. There really is so much involved in this study of the deception that is happening. But Jesus Christ tells us that we should know our enemy. We should know the weapons that he forms against us. We should know the wiles of the devil. We should know how he's going to come against us so that Jesus through us can speak the right words. We can't know about darkness unless we have experienced darkness. And we can't know about things unless, well, we ask Jesus to let us know. This stuff can be scary. We have very angry, controlling men that are mind controlling the people. It can be scary. But God Almighty tells us not to have fear. And he tells us these things are going to happen. I would rather trust in Yahweh God Almighty that already knew that these things were going to happen and had prophets write them down than trust some man telling me, oh no, we're not worshiping fallen angels, and we're not worshiping these false gods, and that's not what we're doing. This is what the Masons tell you. They just tell you that they are involved in a good brotherhood, a great brotherhood, just being able to hang out and do some things together as men, not have any women around. It goes a whole lot deeper than that. The Masons, the Illuminati, they all involved, every one of them. But the Jews, the ones that call themselves Jews and they are liars, I really believe that these are the Sanhedrin. I also found out that in the Masons, one more thing, that they really take a lot of their stories out of the tribe of Ephraim, which is very interesting because Ephraim is Samaria in the Bible, and Samaria is called the sister of Judah, and Sodom is also called the sister of Judah, and I believe that's chapter 16 of the book of Ezekiel. Ephraim is condemned a lot. I mean, God Almighty really gives him his punishment several times. Do your research on Ephraim. I don't know yet if that's who got the Masons started. It's possible that it's the Sodomites and the Sumerians and Judah, all three together that decided to come together and get the Masons started. I mean, the Illuminati. Either way, they're all working together. Y'all have a blessed day, and I'll talk to you soon.